I'm Professor Galler of the Computing Center. In this presentation, we are assuming that you are familiar with the basic operation of the IBM card punch, and we shall show you how to use it more effectively for special purposes. To review the terminology that we use with the card punch, let's run through the normal sequence of use. Karen Diamond will illustrate the operation for us. We first turn on the machine. Then check to see that the star wheels are raised. For this demonstration, we have removed the housing around the drum so that you can see the drum card and the card column indicator better. Check that the keyboard switches, except for the one marked clear, are in the up or on position. We joggle a deck of cards, push the pressure plate back, load the deck into the feed hopper, and release the pressure plate. Pushing the feed key twice positions our cards for punching, and we begin normal operation. We know that the characters on the upper half of the keys are punched with the numeric shift key down. That the card column indicator shows you in which column you're punching. And that backspacing is controlled by this switch in the center of the machine. After a card is punched, we press the release key to move the first card to the reading station and move a new card into the punching station. We know that the duplicate key can be used to make corrections, since it will copy information from the card in the reading station to the one in the punching station. Of course, we try to catch the incorrect card as it goes into the stacker. When punching is completed, we raise the clear switch to move the remaining cards from the track. Finally, we remove our punched cards from the stacker and put a rubber band around them. Remove the remaining blank cards from the feed hopper, and then get a Model 20 listing of our punched deck. Suppose that after getting a printed listing of our deck, we discover an error. We will now demonstrate the procedure for correcting errors on individual cards. On the face of the keyboard is a switch marked Automatic Feed. Turn this switch to the off or down position. This will enable you to control separately each step of the flow of cards into and through the machine. Next, insert the incorrectly punched card into the reading station. Notice that the right end of this card will stick out from the track. Insert a blank card into the punching station. This card must be laid flat so that it will be caught by this tooth when it is to be registered at column 1. Next, we will use the register key here in the second row from the bottom of the keyboard. This will position the cards at column 1 in their respective stations. Notice that when using the register key, the cards don't move very much. We then use the duplicate key and the other keys as usual to make a corrected copy. Remember that you can duplicate several consecutive columns by holding the duplicate key down. After making the correction, the clear switch is used to move both cards to the stacker. Then it's a good idea to make a visual check. The corrected card is placed in your deck, and make sure you destroy the incorrect one. Now let's review the correction procedure. First, we turn the automatic feed switch to the off or down position. Then load the incorrect card into the reading station, allowing the right side to stick up in the air. Third, we load a blank card into the punching station, making sure that it lies flat and can be slipped under the tooth at the right. The register key will then move both cards into the first column position for punching. Fifth, we duplicate correct information and punch new information into the incorrect columns. Finally, we use the clear switch to move both cards to the stacker, make a visual check, put the correct card into the deck, and destroy the incorrect one. Now let's move on to a feature of the card punch which can save you many hours of work. It's a method of automatically controlling many of the machine's functions. For example, let's say you have to punch a deck of cards containing information about students. On every card in the deck, you've reserved the first 12 columns for the student's last name. The next 10 columns will be blank. The next 9 columns, 23 through 31, will contain his Social Security number. The next 10 blank. And then these 3 columns, 42 through 44, will have an alphabetic code for the student's residence hall. And the remaining columns will be blank. With what you already know about the card punch, you could punch the name in the first 12 columns, space over to column 23, depress the numeric shift key and punch the Social Security number, space out to column 42, punch the residence hall code, and then release the card and begin the next one. But now let's watch Karen punching a deck of cards with this format using the automatic drum control and see how much faster the punching goes. She will first punch the student's name. Let's assume it's a name with 12 letters. Notice that when she punches in column 12, the program control will automatically move the card to column 23. Now she will punch the Social Security number, but she will not have to press the numeric shift key. This has also been encoded on the drum card. When she has punched the last digit in the number, the card will move to column 42. Ordinarily, Karen would then punch a 3-character residence hall code there. Let's assume instead that she's punching cards for a number of students in the same residence hall. Taking advantage of the automatic duplication, when the card reaches column 42, the program control will duplicate the residence hall code from the previous card and then automatically release both cards and feed a new one. Now let's have Karen punch another card in the same deck while we watch the heart of the drum control device, the program control or drum card mounted on the program drum. Notice that the star wheels, which are raised and therefore inoperative in the basic operation of the machine, must be down for automatic operation. It is by means of these star wheels that the control signals are transmitted from the drum card to the machine. Let's watch the card column indicator and the drum card while Karen punches another card. Again, assuming a name with 12 letters, she will punch the name. After she punches in column 12, the card will automatically move 10 columns and to numeric shift. Now she will punch the Social Security number, and after she punches in column 31, the card will skip to column 42, automatically duplicate the residence hall code from the previous card, and then release the card and feed another. So we see that by using the program control, we can make 3 machine functions automatic. We can skip any number of consecutive columns any place on a card, much like the tab setting on a typewriter. We can determine the shift setting for any column, such as numeric shift, without using the manual shift keys. And we can preset the duplication of punches from one card to the next. Before we show you how to prepare a drum card, here are 2 important items you should know about automatic operation. First of all, as in the basic operation of the card punch, all of the switches on the face of the keyboard, except the clear switch, should be in the up or on position to assure the automatic operation we have described. There is one exception to this rule, and that is when you are punching the first card in a deck. In that case, the first switch on the left, the automatic skip duplicate switch, is in the down or off position since there is no previous card to duplicate from. We'll explain this in more detail later. Secondly, you should know the operation of the skip key here in the second row from the bottom next to the register key. Here's how this key works. You'll recall that in our example we reserved 12 spaces for the student's last name, and each of our example names had 12 letters. Since the automatic control will not take over until after column 12 is punched, what happens when a name with less than 12 letters is punched? You could, of course, manually space to column 13, where the automatic control would take over and move the card to column 23. But the skip key will make this operation faster. Let's watch Karen punch another card in this deck and see how she uses the skip key. Let's say she has punched a name with only 6 letters. She will now press the skip key and the card will move to column 23. In other words, the skip key will move the card to the end of the current field. Now let's turn to the preparation of a drum card using the same example about students. Here is an ordinary card which we will prepare as a drum card, and here is the format shown above it. First of all, you know that the vertical columns on the card are numbered from 1 to 80. In preparing the drum card, it's also necessary that you know the designations for the horizontal rows on the card. The top 2 rows are called the 12 and 11 rows. The next row is the 0 row, and then they are numbered 1 through 9. There are historical reasons for this numbering, but they're not important now. Just remember, 12 row at the top, then 11 row, then 0 and 1 through 9 rows. Next, in preparing a drum card, we should know that each of the sets of contiguous columns we have set up is called a field. In the example we have been using, we have 6 fields. And we must prepare the drum card so that the machine receives instructions for each field. Let's first define the fields, that is, tell where each begins and ends. We do this by putting a 12 punch in every column of the card except the first column of each field. In other words, in this sample format we've been using, every column except 1, 13, 23, 32, 42, and 45 would have punches in the 12 row to define the fields. Here is a card punched with these fields defined. A 12 punch is made by pressing the ampersand key on the keyboard. This symbol is on the same key as the letter P, but in the numeric shift. To review, each field is defined by leaving its first column blank and then placing a 12 punch in the remaining columns of the field. Now let's move on to the preparation of each field for the function we wish it to perform. Let's start here in column 1. We have reserved columns 1 through 12 for the student's name. So these columns would be programmed for alphabetic shift. Alphabetic shift is indicated by a punch in the 1 row of each column in the field. Here is a card with our fields defined and a 1 punch in the first 12 columns to indicate alphabetic shift. As you already know, a 1 punch is achieved by punching the numeral 1 on the keyboard, again with numeric shift. You've probably already guessed that there is a way to get both of these punches here in columns 2 through 12 without running the card through twice. Punching the letter A will give you punches in both the 12 and 1 rows, so that in this first field you would put a 1 punch in column 1, and then in columns 2 through 12 indicate both field definition and alphabetic shift by punching the letter A. It's important to note that alphabetic shift must be indicated in every column of a field which is to be punched alphabetic, because numeric shift is normal when operating under automatic control. Here in columns 23 through 31 of our deck, we are going to punch the student's number. So all of these columns will be in numeric shift. This is the simplest of functions to indicate, since the code is no punch. So column 23 will remain blank, and the numeric shift will be in effect for the entire field. It is also possible to have both alphabetic and numeric shifts within a single field by having 1 punches in alphabetic columns and no punch, other than field definition, in the numeric columns. With this format, we have decided that 3 of the fields will remain blank. And we can prepare the drum card so that these fields will be automatically skipped. A field which is to be skipped automatically is indicated by an 11 punch in the first column of a field, and only the first column. Here we see our drum card with 11 punches in columns 13, 32, and 45, the first columns of each of the fields to be skipped. Pressing the minus key on the keyboard will give you an 11 punch. Be careful not to use the underline character, since it produces entirely different results. The minus key is on the top row of the keyboard in both alphabetic and numeric shifts. We now have one more function to demonstrate, duplication. The format of our sample program calls for the duplication of the residence hall code from one card to the next, here in columns 42 through 44. A field to be automatically duplicated is indicated by a punch in the 0 row of the first column of the field and only the first column. And here is a 0 punch in column 42, the first of the columns to be duplicated. Punching the 0 key on the keyboard will give you the punch in the 0 row. The 0 key is on the top row of the keyboard. Don't get it confused with the letter O. Let's review the preparation of the drum card. The first function we described was field definition, or the division of our drum card into segments of automatic control. The field definition code is a 12 punch, which is the ampersand character in all but the first column of each field. The alphabetic shift code is a 1 punch in all of the columns in an alphabetic shift field. Since we must have 12 and 1 punches in every column after the first in an alphabetic shift field, we can punch the letter A rather than punching through the field twice. If the 1 punch is left out of any column, numeric shift is automatic. A skip field is indicated by an 11 punch made with the minus key in the first column of the field only. A duplicate field is indicated by a 0 punch made with the 0 key in the first column of the field only. We'll leave this summary of the codes on the screen for a moment and then turn to the mechanics of placing the drum card on the program drum. Also, copies of this summary are available at the Computing Center. Now that we've prepared our drum card, let's watch Karen place it on the program drum. We first make sure that the sensing mechanism star wheels are raised, using the lever under the drum card housing. This is very important, since just a little force can tear the star wheels from the machine. We then remove the drum from its mounting shaft. We turn the handle on top of the drum counterclockwise or to the left as far as it will go. This action loosens the smooth edge of this clamping strip. The column 80 edge of the card is then inserted under the smooth edge of the clamping strip. These two alignment holes show you when the column 80 edge is flush with the metal edge under the strip. Notice that the 9 edge of the card is tightly against the bottom rim of the drum. The clamping strip handle is now turned to the center position, which locks the smooth edge of the clamping strip and loosens the toothed edge. The card is now wrapped tightly around the drum, keeping the 9 edge against the bottom rim. And the column 1 edge of the card is inserted under the toothed edge of the clamping strip. Turning the handle the rest of the way clockwise or to the right locks the card into position. Now place the drum into position, being careful to avoid the star wheels. Be sure that the drum is all the way down to the base plate where the column numbers are shown. Column 1 on the card must be aligned with column 1 on the indicator. If this is not done, the star wheels will not be properly aligned with the punches in the drum card. Move the lever below the drum card housing to the left or down position to lower the star wheels onto the drum card. Finally, press the release key to engage the program control mechanism fully. To remove the drum from its shaft and the card from the drum, just reverse the process we have described. We mentioned earlier that when you are punching the first card in a deck under drum card control, the keyboard switch on the far left, marked Auto Skip Dupe, should be in the down or off position. Well, this is only necessary when there is a duplicate switch in the format, such as columns 42 to 44 in the one we have been using. If this switch is up while punching the first card, the machine will lock up when it reaches a duplicate field, since there is no card from which to duplicate. Now that the program drum card is in place, the keyboard switches are in the proper positions, we're ready to punch the first card. First, Karen types the student's name. Let's say this one has 8 letters. After she punches in column 8, she presses the skip key, and the card moves to column 13. Since on this first card in the deck, the automatic skip has been deactivated, this blank field, columns 13 through 22, will not be skipped automatically. And she must use the skip key again. Now we are at column 23 and automatically in numeric shift, so we punch the student number. Then press the skip key again to move through the blank field to column 42. Now we manually punch the residence hall code into columns 42 through 44 of this first card. Notice that since our residence hall code is alphabetic, we must depress the alphabetic shift key as we punch these columns, since numeric shift is the standard mode while operating under drum card control. This is necessary only on the first card, since automatic duplication controls both alphabetic and numeric shifts. The remaining cards in this deck of students from the same residence hall will now have the proper information to duplicate. Then we press the skip key to go through the remaining blank field, and the card is released. We now move the auto skip dupe switch on the face of the keyboard to the up or on position, and we're ready to punch the remainder of the deck with automatic shift, skip, and duplicate functions. In this presentation, we've tried to show you 2 things. The method of correcting individual cards after you've found mistakes in the printed listing of a deck, and also the automatic control function of the card punch. Copies of the charts and instructions used in this presentation are available in the counseling room at the Computing Center.
SPN 3653.